Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to episode 3. My guest today is BJJ power couple, Willam and Gabby Cayouette.
It's time to high five and fist bump. A jiu-jitsu podcast for the everyday grappler. Let's talk subs. Let's talk positions. Let's talk dominating the mats. Welcome to the Let's Talk Jiu-Jitsu podcast with Raymond Terrence.
My guests today are both BJJ practitioners. Willam is a BJJ brown belt. He also has experience in Muay Thai and MMA. And Gabby is a BJJ purple belt and is a successful karate black belt. Will and Gab, let's talk jiu-jitsu.
Hi, Ray.
Hi, thanks for having us.
No problem. Thanks for being here. So let's get started. So Will, let's talk about you a little bit. Tell me how long you've been doing jiu-jitsu for and how you found jiu-jitsu.
Well, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for about 7 years now. I started off with Muay Thai, and every day I would walk by the jiu-jitsu mats, and Lee would ask me when I'm starting jiu-jitsu, and I was like, eventually, and really I didn't want to roll around with a bunch of dudes and cuddle, So eventually I caved and I tried it, and I just loved it instantly and never stopped.
Okay, and so how long you been doing jiu-jitsu for now? When did you start?
2011, I think.
2011. Okay, good. And how about you, Gab? When did you start doing jiu-jitsu?
I started, I would say it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Actually, it was through Will. I was doing karate for basically my whole life and was looking for something new and interesting and kind of found jiu-jitsu through the gym I was going at, because there was the jiu-jitsu going on in the squash courts at the time. So it kind of just happened, met Will, was interested in Will and the sport, and then kind of, MMA with the karate, wrestling, grappling, all that stuff. And it kind of just happened gradually.
Okay, great. And you're also a karate black belt. So tell me a little bit about, so I'm always interested when people start off in a traditional martial art and move on to something like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think we're kind of in the same boat. We both have black belts in karate, and I think I hope where we kind of both went through the same, I guess, heartache, I guess, when it comes from
Definitely.
Going through a traditional martial art and going through BJJ. So maybe tell me a little bit about how that happened, and then how the transition was when you first started jiu-jitsu compared to, having done karate for many, many years, and how you adapted to that.
Yeah, for sure. It wasn't an easy, like, one day I was doing karate, the other day I was doing jiu-jitsu. It really took a while for me to, right now I'm not doing karate anymore. So it was really a transition at first. I would have like maybe 95% of my time was doing karate because I was competing at a higher level. I was doing knockdown fighting internationally. So I was really, really practicing more karate, and then the jiu-jitsu was a little bit more as a pastime, kind of just to keep my mind off of karate, to, be like a little bit more active differently with my body. And then the more I did jiu-jitsu, the more I wanted to be good at jiu-jitsu. And then there was kind of that struggle of, I want to be good at jiu-jitsu, but I still want to do karate because I'm at a high level, and I was teaching at karate at the time. And it just took a while for me to really be into jiu-jitsu and want to be good, and I wanted to evolve. And I felt kind of that, like you were saying, it was a little bit of a heartache to leave karate behind to go to jiu-jitsu, even though at one point I was doing 50% karate, 50% jiu-jitsu, but I wasn't going anywhere in either of them. So then that's when I decided, okay, I have my black belt in karate, I can always go back if I want to, but if I want to get my blue belt in jiu-jitsu, I have to really invest my time, and I wanted to compete. I'm a very competitive person. I couldn't do that with karate. So I decided to, take the plunge and do jiu-jitsu full time, and it's paid off, I would say.
And how do you find karate has complemented your jiu-jitsu? Do you find that the discipline that you had in karate and everything that you learned through there gave you any benefits when you went over to jiu-jitsu, or was it I'm starting from scratch?
I mean, yeah, it was, I think, more starting from scratch. Definitely the benefits were the flexibility and, the discipline in training every day, and, having your training at night, which karate I always trained at night. So for me, jiu-jitsu was only natural to go to the gym at 7:30 every night. But other than that, like muscle-wise and like technique-wise, it has nothing to do with karate, except maybe when you're doing the sweep when you're kicking the person down. But like that was it. And coming from being a black belt and then going back to white belt, I think that was harder than just starting from no experience, because then you have that feeling like, oh, I'm a black belt, like I shouldn't be in the back of the line, but that's the reality of it. So it was good for more the mental aspect of it, and the physical aspect, it was just completely different. So it's like I had no base.
And did you find that while you were doing karate, did you ever question yourself to be like, okay, I'm standing up, I'm punching people, I'm kicking people, it's going super well. Did it ever cross your mind? Because when me going through karate, I mean, this is like my 25th year now.
Wow.
And I've dedicated more of my time recently, obviously, on jiu-jitsu, and had the same transition as you. But at the time when I was going through the ranks in karate, not once did I think about, well, what would happen if I ended up on the ground?
Oh, no,
And
definitely not.
never did I ask my instructor, be like, so if someone kicks me and I end up on the ground, what do I do? Do I get back up and then start kicking and punching again? Or did you ever like question yourself?
No,
or?
it was never. It was like, if I'm standing up, I'm knocking you out for sure. Like there was not even a notion of the fight could go to the ground, which when I started jiu-jitsu for the purpose of doing MMA at the time, I was like, I want to know what's going to happen if I get to the ground. But no, while I was doing karate and knockdown fighting, it was like, no, I'm knocking you out. There's no way it's going to the ground. But it really opened my eyes to the rest of the fight world when I started jiu-jitsu and grappling.
And now do you find, do you still miss karate a little bit?
A little bit. It's always going to be like, it has a soft spot in my heart, obviously, because I started when I was 6 years old, and a lot of my best friends are still karate people, and, I grew up with this sport. So, of course, there's always a little tender spot.
Nice. Yeah. On that point, I wouldn't mind, Will, when Gab was mentioning a little bit about how she was, dedicating 50% of her time to karate and 50% of her time to jiu-jitsu. And then she realized that her jiu-jitsu wasn't really evolving at a fast pace because she was separating herself in two. And I'm kind of curious your point of view on this, because you've done MMA, you've done Muay Thai, you're a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and you've had to separate your time at a certain point to say, okay, well, I have a Muay Thai fight coming up, so I need to spend a little bit more time, or a lot more time doing Muay Thai. I think we all have that guy in the gym who comes in, who's maybe like been doing, jiu-jitsu for a couple months. Then all of a sudden you see them, posting that they're, doing karate, they're doing judo, they're doing sambo, they're boxing and doing all these things. So when do you think is a good time to start transitioning maybe into more than one martial art? Or I'm the type of person who thinks if you're going to do something, do it all the way. And if you're separating your time with different martial arts, I feel like you'll never get the most out of one of them, that you'll always be separating your time a little bit too much. But I'm curious to get your point of view on that, because you've done a little bit of everything also.
Well, I think that it's inevitable that if you're separating your time, then one martial art will benefit more than the other, because it's hard to separate evenly. As for starting multiple martial arts, I think it's never too early. I waited almost a year and a half before starting jiu-jitsu, and I kind of regret it. I wish I would have just started Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu at the same time. I don't think you have to go 10 classes a week in one or the other. I think you can go 5-5 or, I don't know, 2 and 2, depending on how much time you have,
Okay, so when you were, when you're training for either an MMA fight or a Muay Thai fight, are you, how much are you taking away from your jiu-jitsu? Are you, if you're used to doing, 10 classes of jiu-jitsu a week, are you really separating that in half to focus on your competition? Or?
Definitely, yeah. Okay. I don't really like doing it, but it's necessary, because there's also like training related wear and tear. So you don't want more wear and tear from jiu-jitsu while you're training for kickboxing, right? You don't want to be sore for your kickboxing because you did jiu-jitsu. You want to be 100% in your kickboxing training. So basically you're just going to train as much jiu-jitsu as you can without it disrupting your kickboxing.
Right.
And
But
then vice versa.
But you find one does complement the other, that you should still keep up with it, because, like I was saying, a lot of people will come into jiu-jitsu and they'll start off in the gi and maybe transition to no gi because they're saying, hey, I want to go into MMA. So obviously I'm going to stick to more no gi, and that's going to be kind of my path because I'll be able to do, some striking in that, and it'll lead to other things, and it'll open up my game a little bit more into MMA. Do you think someone, example, should do a year of jiu-jitsu and then say, okay, well, at least I have a strong base in jiu-jitsu, now I'm going to start punching and kicking? Or do you think maybe from the beginning they could start gradually, touch a little bit of striking?
I think they should do everything at once. Yeah.
All right.
if they can, if they have time for it, they should start everything at once. Because if you just do one at a time, when you start the next thing and forget the last thing, that's what you're going to do. You're going to be forgetting the last thing, right? If you start both at the same time, I mean, you're not going to be an expert at either, but like you're going to be taking in both knowledge. And if you have a bad day in jiu-jitsu, maybe you'll have a good day in kickboxing, right?
That's a good point.
And I find they complement themselves, like body muscle wise. When you're grappling, you're pulling a lot, and when you're striking, you're pushing a lot with your muscles. So I find it helps your physique. If you do too much Muay Thai, you start to be like hunched over, and then Jiu-Jitsu like fixes your posture, I find.
Okay. And to everyone listening, I just need to remind you that Will is like 20 years old and like has no like understanding about how the human body can evolve over time, and how me at 38 my body is falling apart. So maybe age has something to do with it too. For me it's a difference. If I put myself now at 38 and I was like, I want to do Muay Thai and I want to do jiu-jitsu and all this, I will fall apart. I try to do one Muay Thai class a week, and even at that, I tried to do that, let's say, a year ago, and my body could not take it. So it's a little different. So I guess age plays a little bit of a factor on it too.
Yeah, definitely. I see the difference from when I started jiu-jitsu and now. It's just 5 years difference. But you can still see with the flexibility and with just tiredness in general of working during the week or during the day. Like it affects your body, but Will's also a machine, so he's like the exception more than the rule. So,
I don't want to say that age isn't a factor, but I mean, if you do something, you do it a lot, your body's going to adapt to it. Like, the first few trainings are going to suck, and it's going to keep sucking for a long time. But as you do more and more, you'll get used to it, and you can push yourself to do more. Like, a lot of people ask me, because at our gym, the kickboxing and jiu-jitsu are one after the other. So a lot of people ask me if it's possible to do one after the other, or how long they should wait before trying to do one after the other. And I say they should do it right away, because they're going to get used to it right away. Not only that, but if you do jiu-jitsu while you're tired from Muay Thai, I mean, that's the purest jiu-jitsu you're going to get, because you have no muscle. You can't just bench press a guy,
That's a good point. Especially when instructors keep emphasizing like these big muscular jack guys most of the time don't get anywhere in jiu-jitsu, right? Because where everyone tries to focus on technique. So if you're doing something, getting exhausted for an hour, and then you have to roll for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, I guess muscle goes out the window at that point. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm gonna think about that. I think my body would still fall apart doing that, but I can see where you're going with that. Awesome. So Gab, when we talk about competing, so I know you were definitely an active competitor in karate. How do you find there is a big difference between being competitive in karate and competing in karate and competing in jiu-jitsu? Do you get the same jitters? Do you get the same stress, the same nerves, or?
Well, I think it's different because karate, I had a lot more opportunity for competition because I started so young. And it wasn't really regulated by an organization. It was every dojo kind of held its own tournament whenever it wanted. So I would have maybe 2 or 3 tournaments sometimes, like every 6 months. So I had a lot of opportunity to train and to practice for the nerves and to know who my competitors were. In jiu-jitsu, also what happened is I started competing a little bit later. My first tournament was at blue belt, and then the only other tournaments I've had was at purple belt. So I don't have as much experience competing. but their nerves are still the same when you're about to step on the mat. It's still the same like pressure that you feel. It's just I have a little bit less experience managing like the stretching for jiu-jitsu and the prep before the tournament, because karate, you punch a couple of pads and you do some kicks in the air, but you don't want to be that person that that's shadow boxing at a jiu-jitsu tournament, right? So that part for me is different. Like the first part, the warming up for the tournament is different, but as soon as you step on the mat, it's the same game. It's you trying to win over the other person. So that hasn't changed.
That's really hilarious. Just you saying that. Honestly, I haven't been listening to you for the past 15 seconds, because when you talk about the guy doing shadow punching during jiu-jitsu warm-up, that's all I'm thinking about. In all the tournaments that I do, there's a guy doing burpees in the corner. Oh, man, it drives me crazy. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it works for that person. It's just what...
No. It's always a white belt, and for sure he has like the Rocky music playing in his head.
And all of the other belts are laughing at you. Don't do it, please. If you do karate, even don't do it at a jiu-jitsu tournament. Do it at a karate tournament. That's
definitely.
Yeah.
So, Will, you competed a few weekends ago with me at the same tournament, actually. And you competed in a brown and black belt division. So I'm kind of curious, as a brown belt, what you were thinking going into it and what you got out of it, your experience, and maybe some advice for people who maybe just got their brown belt and are like, hey, well, now I'm going to do a comp, but I'm going to be mixed in with everybody else and all the other black belts who have maybe years of experience on me.
Well, I felt the exact same way when I got my purple belt. I was very nervous to compete, and I put it off for years because I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to compete with other purple belts. And then when I was near the end of my purple belt life, I guess,
journey,
I started to compete, and I regretted not competing earlier. So this time around, I got my brown belt in June, and I said, nope, I'm going to knock it out of the way. I'm going to start competing right away. And I'm going to compete again next weekend.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was pretty nervous. But it wasn't that bad, I felt ready. The leg locks were scary,
It's new, right?
Yeah, it's new. And I don't want to get my knee hurt or anything like that, but I don't think people go for leg locks all that much. Honestly,
in the gi,
yeah,
right. Because at brown now, I mean, most of the tournaments, I guess they're following IBJJF rules, so you can do knee bars. Yeah. You can't do heel hooks because that's just banned in general from the gi. You could do toe holds.
Yeah.
Right. Did you see a lot of leg and foot attacks in the competition you did last weekend?
I got stuck in 50-50, but there weren't any attacks.
Really? Okay.
I was just stuck there.
And the other matches that you watched, did you see any other brown or black belts even go for toe holds or knee bars or things like that? Or
not that I can think of, actually. There probably were a few, but nothing that really sticks out. Nothing that made me wince or...
Okay. And are you going to go into the tournament next weekend a little differently than you did the first time around? Do you think that your game, you'll do something any different now that you have at least one comp under your belt and it's so recent, so it's fresh in your mind? Not getting 50-50 probably is
not getting 50-50. Definitely not getting 50-50. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been practicing not getting in 50-50. And then if I get caught in 50-50, I've been practicing stuff to do from there.
Okay.
That's a big part because I spent, I think, 6 minutes in 50-50.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I that's definitely a position, me as a purple belt, that I'm getting myself into more and more. But I'm actually pushing that. I find myself getting there because I want to be there, in a way, because I kind of want to test the waters. I would say at white and blue, I never. As far as I know, I've never been in that position, or maybe I had like next to no experience that maybe I was there and I didn't realize I was there. But now when I get into 50-50, I realize it's either me on my back or me rocking forward and him being on his back and the match not going anywhere. So definitely I think I need to do a little bit more research on that. But yeah, definitely being in 50-50 there is kind of a standstill. And I think when you watch a lot of black belt matches, if you watch the IBJJFs or, the big tournaments, I spent a lot of time on Flow Grappling. I would say you don't see too many matches of people being in 50-50 and just sitting there and doing nothing. Yes, the match is a little slower because everyone's so technical that you don't want to make a mistake and give up 2 points or whatnot. But I think 50-50, I think it's something that might be coming back a little bit, but I think that's what jiu-jitsu does over time. Something is super, super trendy and everyone will be doing it, and then it dips off and you don't see it and something else pops up. But then a year later, that first move that was interesting that you haven't seen in a year comes back again. Do you find that common, I guess, in the years that you've been doing jiu-jitsu, that maybe you started off seeing something and you're like, wow, it's just super cool, then all of a sudden no one was doing it anymore? Or...
Well, I remember when Berimbolo was trendy. that lasted like I don't know, a few months.
Right.
Nobody really talks about it that much anymore.
The dark period of jiu-jitsu.
That's true. So if you were able to describe your style of jiu-jitsu, how would you describe your style of jiu-jitsu? I definitely have a few words about your style of jiu-jitsu, but I would definitely like to get your take on it.
I can sum it up in one word.
Okay.
Smish.
Smish.
Definitely
Nice.
smish.
So pressure, right?
Yeah. I like to be on people like melted cheese and then suffocate them.
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah,
It sounds like a good
pretty well,
plan.
yeah.
What about you, Gab? As a purple belt, you're obviously opening your game up and looking at different things now. You're broadening your horizon when it comes to jiu-jitsu. I think everyone has that experience when they get to purple. Do you find yourself going in one direction right now, or?
I'm still kind of figuring out what my strong points are. I know it's definitely my cardio at this point that's really like the better thing about my game, especially when I'm going against bigger people. But I don't know, I like to go kind of fast and surprise, change directions, and try to be in every position at once, basically. But I'm still figuring it out. I think my arsenal is getting bigger. I just kind of have to refine every move every time I roll. So.
And when it comes to your couple, I guess obviously I have you guys on because you are a couple that does jiu-jitsu. You live together. I mean, you guys are together 24/7. How do you find jiu-jitsu and training in general has influenced your relationship? And I'm asking you this because I trained for many, many years with my wife, who also got into martial arts when we first met and kind of got the bug and whatnot. How do you guys, how has it helped your relationship or maybe hindered your relationship? I don't know. You have to tell me.
I think it's pretty much at the base of our relationship.
Yeah.
We kind of started going out because we had a similar interest in martial arts, and I get to see him every day because if I want to see him, I go to the gym. If I don't want to see him, I stay home, which is not good for my jiu-jitsu. So basically, I have to see him all the time.
I would say it's the glue that holds us together.
Yes.
The glue that holds you together. That's pretty cute. You will get supper tonight.
Yay!
That's good. So basically, when you're, the fact that you constantly have a training partner,
Yeah, exactly.
at home, at the gym, you always have somebody. Do you guys drill at home? Do you train at home? I know you guys were saying that you have a little bit of mat space at home.
Yeah, actually, our whole basement is dedicated to mat space and kind of a training area. We drill together sometimes.
Not very often, though. We're at the gym most of the
Yeah,
time.
I mean, we can walk to the gym from our house, too, which is really practical for us. But yeah, we do techniques together. We never run out of something to talk about because we can talk about martial arts or jiu-jitsu or anything in that kind of area. And no, we train together a lot. I'll ask him, how did you roll against this person? Like, are they better than me?
And will you guys pick each other to roll during class? Because Will's at the front of the line. So technically, if anyone's picking anyone, Will's the one who's, picking you because you're a little further down in the line. Do you find yourself picking Gab often and rolling with her?
I feel kind of like I have to. You know? I may be at the front of the line, but I have to like live with her.
Yeah.
So if I never pick her, then it's
Yeah.
not gonna go too well.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't want him to pick me because I know he's in like, if he's in a mood to like destroy people, I'd rather not be the one he destroys. So sometimes I'm like, please don't pick me, please don't pick me. And other times I'm like, hey, look at me, like I want to roll. But it's like on and off. Sometimes like you really want to go like all out, but when you're rolling with like a significant other, if you get injured when you're rolling with a significant other, then
They'll
like,
always blame you.
yes. Yes. I love you. Yeah. No, like you said, you always have a training partner if you want it or not, you know.
And do you find when you do roll together, do you find that you're going a little gentler on her, or does it go on your mood if you feel like, hey, like I'm gonna go a little harder? Obviously, you don't want to purposely go soft because she's not gonna learn anything from it necessarily if you do. But
I wouldn't say I go gentle.
Yeah.
I don't really go gentle on anybody.
that is true.
No, that's true.
I'll maybe like help them out a little bit. I'll give them some room maybe, but I won't go gentle. I don't think that benefits anybody.
So on that then, so that's a good point. When we talk about new people coming into the gym, we all know that a new face comes into the gym, whether he's wearing a gi from the club or another gi that you don't know where he's from, that guy is going to have a very bad day because everyone in the club feels like, hey, he's the new guy and we've got something to prove and we're going to show him what we're like here. How's your do you adapt? I know a lot of black belts do that. They'll adapt their, obviously, as a black belt, they're pretty confident. They have a lot of years behind their belt, so they adapt their style with the person that they're rolling with, right? They're not going balls to the walls all the time at every belt level. Do you find yourself in a situation like that, adapting yourself to other belt levels and not going all out all the time at all belt levels, or?
Well, I would say, like, if I'm meeting someone for the first time, I'm not going to go too hard on them because I don't know them and they don't know me. And I feel like we have to establish a rapport before it's okay for me to, destroy them. Like, give 100%. Like, it's the same thing in striking, right? You're not just going to start teeing off on someone you don't know. It's not good etiquette. So the first time, you'll go, I wouldn't say light, but kind of. And then after that, once you get to know each other, then you can start going harder and harder until you both try to murder each other.
Do you find it's the same thing maybe in karate too?
In karate, I mean, for me, it was a different perspective because in karate, I was a black belt. So I couldn't just start like smashing people and, knocking them out and going really hard because I had that kind of skill that went with the black belt and I was one of the teachers too. So of course, like, it was just, hit me. I was the punching bag in karate. Mm-hmm. In jiu-jitsu, in the opposite, also being a girl is way different. You're literally sitting on top of a person, where there's karate, I could keep you away with my kicks if I wanted to, if I didn't want to feel that weight. So for me in jiu-jitsu, when I'm meeting new people, I always have to be kind of on the defensive because I don't know if a guy walking in as a white belt, how strong they are, even a girl walking in as a white belt. And I always have to be careful with that. And for me, it's kind of about the vibe too. If they're putting a lot of pressure, and with girls too, like guys, everybody tends to put a lot of pressure to see, especially now as a like higher colored belt, I would say, you have that kind of stigma, like, oh yeah, like they know what they're doing, like I could crush them. And it's still hard sometimes to deal with that pressure. So I kind of just pull back and let's like see what they're giving to me. And that's why also it's fun to have Will there. He could go through the white belts first and tell me like, yeah, okay, this guy's good. You can, no worry, this, like, you can roll with him or you can roll with her, like, no problem. He kind of has that filter. And if he tells me like, no, this guy's crazy, don't, like, wait a couple of weeks until he calms down, then like pick him. So at least there's that. That's when it comes into play. Like, I'm like, Will, like, pick this guy next. I want to see like how good he is.
How it's gonna go.
Yeah, exactly. So I have that which helps a lot actually sometimes.
Yeah, I know with, when you have new people coming through the door, people doing trial classes or even people who come off the street and they sign up on the spot, right? They don't even try class. They're like, I saw UFC. There's this thing called Jiu-Jitsu. I went online. I signed up for a year membership, and that's what I'm doing, right? Those people coming in, the last thing you want to do is welcome new people into the gym, smash them on their first class, get them completely discouraged, and never see their face ever again. Right?
Which is an unfortunate reality of jiu-jitsu.
It is. But, I definitely agree because those are the people that you're going to be training partners with later on. Those people are also going to help you later on. Even if you're, a black belt, a brown belt, whatever belt you are, I mean, you're still learning from the lower belts. I was having a discussion with someone recently and I was talking about the podcast and how I was having people on at all belt levels because it's something that you normally don't see. It's always, high level black belts on but everybody has something to say and everybody has something to contribute no matter what level you are. So if you have someone coming in the gym and all you're doing is you have 20 guys just rolling with this one white belt and making his life horrible, it sucks because you're showing a different vibe of jiu-jitsu that shouldn't be there, and this guy might come back, but he's not going to be pleasant, right? He's probably going to have a different outlook on jiu-jitsu, and that's not what we're trying to portray, right? For sure. When it comes to conditioning, so I know you guys are pretty big on conditioning. I was going to say about nutrition, but I've seen Will eat, and I know we definitely don't need to talk too much about nutrition.
Well, I've been seeing Pat. Have you had Pat from BJJ?
Pat is coming on the podcast. Pat is a white belt. He is a sports nutritionist. He was supposed to be on the show today, right after you guys actually, but he's sick and he came down with the flu. So he's going to be on next week. So stay tuned for that. He is going to be great to have on. He owns a sports nutrition center and caters to high-end athletes. But you've been seeing him?
Yep. I can vouch for him.
Yeah, both of us actually.
He knows his stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we went as a couple, and that's also something that really has benefited us when we're both dieting. It really helps. You don't have someone eating donuts in your face, We're both on the same diet or same meal plan. Will cooks most of the time, so it's great. But yeah, no, nutrition is definitely important. And seeing the right person, because it's easy to look online and, keto diet, sure, I can do that. But there's a way to do it for it to be effective and to be able to drop the weight healthy.
Yeah, you don't want to use bro science.
No.
Bro science doesn't always work.
So how do you feel? So how is he helping you now? Did he give you a meal plan? Are you guys doing the pre-made meals?
No, he gave us a full plan. It's evolved several times over time.
Several times.
Time a lot.
Yeah.
Time
over time.
But initially it was to drop weight. I actually ended up gaining muscle mass and losing fat mass. Last appointment I was at 9% body fat.
Wow.
Which is
not bad.
Yeah.
That's good.
I've never felt this good, and I've never been in this good a shape, and it was all, I would say, the nutrition that made the difference, because I've always trained a lot. I just only started taking nutrition seriously this year, and it's made a huge difference.
So what are you doing different when it comes to your meals? Are you completely eating different? Are you still eating sweets? So tell me a little bit about what you're doing different now.
Well, I track all my food. I track my macros. I've Pat has specific values. He has an app, and he has specific values for different foods, and you just input them into the app and it adds up to your macros, and there's other components too that I don't quite understand. But I just basically eat what he tells me. Yeah. Okay. I don't ask too many questions.
And it's working, which is good.
And it's working,
yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Great. And you're doing the same thing, Gab?
Yeah, I'm doing it when we started, I was really into it now. And when we started, it was for competition. So we were really motivated. And now for me, obviously Halloween is my weakness. So I had a little bit of trouble there. But I think it taught us a lot what foods to eat and when to eat them, depending on if you want to cut weight for a competition, if you want to maintain your weight, if you want to gain muscle mass. And I'm still following it. I'm still logging my food and following my macros. Sometimes it's harder, like you have a cheat day, and it's okay to have a cheat day according to Pat. And no, it's just taught us like how to eat clean, and to what nutrients we need to fuel our body specifically for the training that we're doing.
So do you find that your recovery is better now that you're eating this way, or?
Yeah, I think so. I feel a difference, like if I go on like a binge for a weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the week after that, I will feel a difference in my recovery, and I just won't feel as good when I'm training either. I won't have the same energy if I ate really poorly.
And are you Are you taking supplements at all?
Yeah, a little bit. BCA, creatine, protein. That's pretty much it.
Okay, and that's just an added value, I guess, to your day-to-day meals and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you find that you're definitely eating better, which means that you're keeping a healthier weight? We talk about jiu-jitsu and we talk about weight cuts, and I cannot emphasize how much I hate cutting weight in every possible way. I normally go to 181.5, and it doesn't take me that long to get there, and it's not a major weight cut. In my last comp, I went to 195, and the guys were much bigger, and I definitely had a harder time. But I was eating pumpkin pie for 4 weeks, and I love pumpkin pie. And the last thing I wanted to do was not eat pumpkin pie. But maybe, as you guys are saying, I could still eat my pumpkin pie. Maybe if I ate a little cleaner during the week, I think that would be a good option. When it comes to weight cuts, are you guys? Do you find yourself weight cutting a lot for comps, or do you find yourself already around that nice little weight where it's not as difficult?
Well, I used to do, like pretty significant weight cuts, but now I'm just staying at my competition weight, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't done any competitions lately where you weigh in the day before, so I haven't done any water cut. I just show up the day of on weight, and I just stay in my competition weight.
Okay, so you don't for the sake of the last competition, for example, when you went into it, you were on weight, feeling good.
Yeah, I had breakfast, was drinking water. Yeah.
Does everyone understand that? No one understands that.
It's not the case for everyone. I'll tell you that. Like, especially even in the same household, and I think it depends on what competition you're going to.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a huge like Ontario Open or a big event like I've never been to the Worlds or anything, but you want to be like the lightest, the heaviest in the smallest category, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm like kind of in between two weight classes right now. I lost a lot of weight to get out of the heavier weight classes, but I'm still in between. Like Will, I could comfortably compete at middleweight without having to cut, without being able to have breakfast and stuff.
Medium heavy, actually.
No, I would be middleweight.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me.
No, I'm talking about me here.
Oh. It's all about you, Will.
Yeah. So for me, it would be middleweight. But if I really wanted to cut for a serious competition where I would feel stronger, hopefully, than everybody else, I would cut to lightweight, which would consider, like, it would be a little bit more time and effort and really, like, clean up calories and,
Yeah, I agree. I think people starting in jiu-jitsu that want to compete, maybe they are just very, very competitive in nature, and that's what attracted them to jiu-jitsu. I would suggest go into your normal weight class and see what happens.
For sure.
Don't. I went in it the wrong way. When I started competing in jiu-jitsu, I cut lots and lots of weight. I cut, I think, 12 pounds my first comp. I was putting cream on my body that my coach had given me, and they don't sell it here apparently. And I wrapped myself in bed, and I was just sweating and sweating and sweating the night before the comp because I just wasn't able to get to where I needed to get to be able to cut the weight. And it was a really bad experience to start off when I wanted to compete in jiu-jitsu, because the day of, I felt like I wasn't rolling to my full potential. My energy levels weren't there. I felt super dehydrated. My muscles were just done after the first match. So I promised myself that I would not do that again. So if anybody's listening and you're like, should I compete? I want to do my first competition. Should I cut weight and go under? Just don't do it. Just
if they're giving you $1 million and like for this competition, sure.
Why not?
Why not? But if you're doing it recreationally, which is for me, what I'm doing it for fun. You know, it's not. I don't want to go into this professionally. I don't think I need to do those serious weight cuts. But some people, I think when you get to that level, sure, do it. But
For the everyday
for the
jiu-jitsu
everyday,
guy.
for the average
right.
Joe,
Right.
you know, stick to your own weight.
Good.
Let's say if the weigh-in is the day before, you should cut the water. You can drop down a full weight class, just water, drink Pedialyte, and then you're all right.
And then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Do you find?
It sucks, but it works.
Would you still
And
have full
everybody
energy?
does it.
Would you have full energy the next day, the next morning? Do you feel like you'd still be able to grapple at your full potential, cutting all the water the day before? Again, this is a good question for Pat. Pat. Get on my podcast. We have questions for you.
I don't think you're going to be performing at 100% regardless, because you're going to have the jitters. You're going to be really stiff.
True.
You know, you're going to be in competition mode.
True. So I have organized a fun little activity for all of us. Who doesn't like a fun little activity during a podcast? So it's a little game that I put together. It's a couples game that I gave Will and Gab a series of questions, and I want to know how well they know each other when it comes to jiu-jitsu. So I gave them a series of questions that they had to answer about each other. They have not seen each other's answers, so we're going to go through it right now, and let's see how well they know each other when it comes to jiu-jitsu. So grab your cards. So the first question, I don't know if they're in order, so you might need to search for them.
Okay.
So let's start with Gab. So that would be the questions for Gab and your answers. Okay. So I asked you, what is Gab's favorite submission? What did you answer?
I said X choke.
X choke. And what did you write?
Wait, let me find the card. I wrote it's bow and arrow.
Bow and arrow.
Yeah.
X choke, bow and arrow. I'm trying to think if there's any like link or correlation or
I mean,
anything.
It's a choke.
It involves a lapel.
And so why is that your favorite submission, by the way?
I just love it because you can get it on all body types and on people of all experiences. I've gotten this on black belts, brown belts, white belts, girls, guys, big guys, small guys, everyone. And everyone is surprised by it every time because you don't expect it. The person has, like, you have their back and then they're trying to escape and you kind of let them escape a little bit and then bam, like they're caught in a choke. And there's nowhere to go from a bow and arrow.
It's true.
So.
And do you do the little leg on top of the?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so brutal, and it's like, you know, you're literally breaking the you're breaking the person. So it's cool.
I like doing the
too.
bow and arrow. If you really want to be mean, and I'm going to say this closer to the mic, if you really want to be mean to your training partner, do the bow and arrow. Except instead of putting, so you have your hand around the neck and have your thumb inside the lapel, and instead of having your leg over, bring both of your legs to the other side and put your shins directly on the guy's back and fold him in half. I don't suggest you do this to your friendly training partners in school.
Or your girlfriend.
No. It's the exact opposite. You only do it to your friends. Okay?
Next.
If I go hard on you, it's because you're my friend. Okay?
There we go.
You heard it, everyone. Will likes you if he goes hard.
There you go. So what is Gab's favorite jiu-jitsu position to be in? Do you notice that if I was going to word it, what is Gab's favorite position to be in? But knowing that, you know, this is a family show, or I'm trying to make this a family show, I said, what is Gab's favorite jiu-jitsu position to be in? What did you write?
I said side control.
Yeah.
You wrote side control?
I did write side control.
Let me see your card.
Oh, yeah.
She said side control.
said side
Awesome. Good. That's a good start.
Yeah.
That's one.
That's one.
That's one.
Which position does Gab hate to be in the most?
Said bottom side control.
Bottom side control.
I wrote bottom anything. So
Hey, that's good. Bottom
it works.
anything
Bottom
is
anything.
good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So why bottom anything? I'm curious.
I struggle to get out, like a lot of pressure, and I have trouble with my neck and my shoulder from jiu-jitsu injuries. So I find it hard sometimes to push away. But it's something I definitely need to work on my whole bottom game. So if you're listening to this, other female purple belts, you know,
Middleweight.
great.
Middleweight.
Yeah, that's something I definitely need to work on. And it's also the stress of having somebody on top of you. that, it could be a little overwhelming sometimes. I got to work on it.
Okay. If Gab had to pick an animal to describe her style of jiu-jitsu, yes, I made up these questions myself. If Gab had to pick an animal to describe her style of jiu-jitsu, which animal would that be?
I said tiger.
Tiger?
It's tiger.
Hey, look, two. That's like three. That's three
but
questions. Not
that's
bad.
She would have
Easy
said
one.
that to anything involving an animal.
Yeah, because that's easy. I have a tiger tattoo, and when I was a kid and I did karate, my sensei would call me Tiger. So that was an easy question.
Easy question.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good. Are there any other questions? Am I missing one?
Yeah. The gi color?
Oh, yes. If Gab had to pick between... No, that's not it. If Gab had to pick any color gi, any color in the world, which color gi would she pick?
Oh, any color in the world?
Any color in the world.
Oh, I didn't know that. Any color in the world?
Oh, no. Okay.
Can I just say it?
Yes,
right
go
off the
for
bat?
it.
Pink.
Yeah.
Oh,
If any color in the world, it would be pink.
Yeah.
But Fred says no pink geese, so I'm not allowed pink geese, Fred. BTT rules. Yeah.
Pink it would be.
It would
I
be
know also that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were designing or are still designing possible jiu-jitsu onesies and whatnot.
I do. I'm a little selfish on this. I make them only for myself. I'm in fashion design, so my background, I went to fashion school. I have a little sewing room at home. So I make my own rash guards, my leggings, and I make these little jiu-jitsu onesies, kind of like from a wrestling singlet. I wear them under my gi. That way, if your belt falls off and somebody pulls down your pants, like you're not, your underwear is not showing to everyone. And it's honestly the best thing I've ever worn under my gi. So, it's a project that I wish will happen in the future. Still working on it. But yeah, if you see me wearing like a Bruce Lee kind of onesie under my gi, I made it. So.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely suggest. I think there's tons of jiu-jitsu gear out there, but gear is so expensive.
Yeah.
Rash guards, you're paying $60. I'm talking Canadian dollars here, but but in Canada, we have a hard time here looking for Canadian-based jiu-jitsu gear. Yeah. It's hard to find. So most of the time, we're shopping on eBay and we're finding stuff in the States. You gotta. You're paying in US, you have to pay for shipping, it's got to cross the border and all these things. So definitely more people that are able to design jiu-jitsu clothes that are local here is just even better. So you definitely need to get on that.
Definitely, I'm working on it.
So if Gab had to pick between gi and no gi for the rest of her life, she only had to choose one. She could only choose one. Which one would it be?
The gi.
Yeah, it's definitely the gi. I like
Is
choking
it?
people
And
with the lapels.
Are you dabbing into no gi every now
Yeah,
and then?
definitely. I find I like no gi a lot. Definitely a little bit more sweaty and more slippery, so that's an extra challenge over there. But it's nice and it's fun to do the MMA class once in a while too, to get to punching people in the face again. But I like the gi a lot. It's what I started with, so I have definitely more experience, and I find my skill level is definitely better in gi. But yeah, no gi is also really good.
Yes. All right, Will, it's your turn. Let's do it. What is Will's favorite submission? What did you answer, Gab?
I wrote rape choke,
Rape choke.
which is his signature move. He kind of I don't want to say invented it because you don't really invent anything in jiu-jitsu, but it's his move.
I called it the murder choke, but yeah.
See, look at that. I saw his answer
Same.
before, and Will was I was very thankful. I was like, Will is gonna word this in a way where it's gonna be appropriate for the podcast, and then Gab comes around
I'm the
and calls it
inappropriate
the
one.
rape choke.
I'm sorry. It's because he calls it like that.
So can you
Really.
just because people have no idea what choke you're talking, can you maybe try to explain this choke to people?
So it's what you would do if you're trying to murder someone, right? And they're wearing a gi. So you're just
Very specific.
Because everyone walks around with a gi all the time.
Yeah.
or a
Everyone we
jacket
know.
or whatever. You just grab one of their lapels, you bring it across their throat, you get a crossface and get a hold of it, and then you get rid of the excess fabric by pushing down on it.
And it works really well.
Yeah.
Very, very well. I actually saw you try to pull it off against a black belt at competition 2 weeks ago. I think it was a black belt. You were trying to do it. You were on top. You were in top half, and you were trying to pull it off. You didn't get all the way there, but you tried. So
It was top 50-50.
oh, there you go.
Damn, 50-50.
Darn you, 50-50. What is Will's favorite position to be in?
Mount.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Two
You guys
for
are doing
two.
pretty good.
It's because his favorite submission is from his favorite
it's
position.
easier from mount. Good.
There you go.
So is it because of that submission that you're, or do you just feel more comfortable there? You have more options.
There's that submission, and there's basically every other submission out there.
Right.
Yeah, the mount or back. I mean, what else is there really?
I find there's a lot of people, including myself, that only more recently I'm feeling way more comfortable taking the mount. But in the past, I was taking the mount and I felt like, hey, well, I could swing for an arm bar. I could try one of my lapel chokes or whatnot. But I would either get swept. I'd end up in bottom full guard. But recently has gotten better. So I think there is hope for people who are in the same boat and saying, hey, I don't want to go to mount because either way I get flipped over. But it is a very dominant position. Do you have any pointers maybe for people that maybe are having a hard time keeping mount?
Stick your forearm in their face.
Forearm in
Whoa,
the face.
forearm
Arm to the face.
All right.
Helps a lot.
And are you putting your feet all the way to the hips, like squeezing with your feet onto the hips and your knees, or?
You go for a more high mount usually.
I go from high mount to low mount depending on what, how hard they're resisting or what they're fighting.
Okay.
Usually low because it gives me some wiggle room to grab the lapel. But I switch from one to the other.
Okay. Which position does Will hate to be in the most?
Open guard.
I rode guard.
There you go. That works.
It works.
That's
It works.
true.
Come on.
And I want to hear your reasoning for that. Why do you hate that position the most?
I think probably traumatized from ground and pound. Any guard is bad when you're getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
So my guard is basically the anti-guard. I just try to get out of guard, regardless of what it is. Regardless.
So you always want to be on top.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you find that that's because of your MMA background and getting punched when you're on the bottom? You think that
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah, yeah. Having a larger person on top of you punching you in the face while you're in guard is not fun.
I can see how that
And
can be bad.
I have bad memories of it.
If Will could pick any color gi, which color would he pick?
That's an easy one. It would be black.
Yep.
Black is black. 'Cause
Black?
blood doesn't show on a black gi.
He said that before, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Probably.
I have to say, out of all the color gis, black is the most badass gi. I had to say, if I had to have 50 gis and own 50 gis and wear 50 gis, they would all be black. Yeah. I
I'm
definitely
a little
agree.
traditional because of the karate background, and I do like a nice
Right.
white gi.
You know what's really funny? I
But-
just got a white jiu-jitsu gi. I bought a white jiu-jitsu gi because I have some black ones, I have a blue one, and I never wanted to go back to white. But as a gift, I ended up getting a white jiu-jitsu gi from our instructor, which was super, super nice. So I got a white gi, and I actually love it a lot.
Yeah,
And I
I
think
get it.
I
It's
think it
nice
might
and
have
clean.
it might have something to do with the belt color, like the transition.
Yeah.
White on white, like, just doesn't work. A white gi with a white belt for me, like, it just didn't work. But okay, cool, awesome. Black,
One of my
but
biggest regrets is getting a gi that wasn't black.
It's laundry day gi.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Will had to pick an animal to describe his style of jiu-jitsu, which animal would that be?
Grizzly bear.
I rode a bear.
Yeah, yeah.
I am very impressed, guys. I
I'm
thought
so
that
good.
this game wasn't going to go anywhere. I thought that the answers were not going to match. I'm super happy.
Nice.
You're
You
good.
get the
Bear.
conclusion to this is if you want to have a good couple, you do jiu-jitsu.
You do jiu-jitsu. So why grizzly? Just because you like grizzly bears, or?
I like to maul people.
It's funny that you say that. I was talking to Professor Mark St. Marie, who I had on episode 1, and he was talking about different styles of jiu-jitsu, and he's also told me in the past that he likes to compare things to animals. I remember this one day I walked in, and he had his phone on him, and he's like, Ray, you have to see this video. And he's showing me a video of a leopard. I think it was a leopard or a tiger. I'm really bad with the difference between all these like tigers and leopards and whatnot. But there was this animal who was running after a bunch of caribous, leaped on it, took its back, rolled it over, went to its neck, and started just holding onto its neck, ended up killing the animal. And this was for a 7 a.m. class. I was there at 6:45 in the morning. I would just really force myself to be at jiu-jitsu, and the first thing I see is this video of some tiger mauling some other animal. And what he did is that he explained that when you control the head, you control the rest of the body. So he likes to compare things to animals in different scenarios. And so that's why I kind of came up with that question when it comes with animals, just to see if people would answer anything that would relate to jiu-jitsu whatsoever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Mauling people's.
Mauling people, yeah, that's true. If Will had to pick between the gi and the no gi and could only choose one for the rest of his life, which one would he pick?
It would definitely be gi.
Yep.
Definitely be gi.
Definitely be gi because he likes to choke people with the lapel.
Yep.
Same.
But you do train a lot of no gi though.
I do. I'd rather train no-gi than not train. But, you know, I still prefer gi.
And do you find your no gi relates really well to your gi? Do you think one complements the other? Because that's the age-old question. If I'm going to train jiu-jitsu, how much gi should I do compared to no gi a week? Should I do more no gi? If I do no gi and I do it once a week or twice a week, is it going to, complement my gi? Is it going to bring me anything?
Absolutely.
It's
Do
definitely not
anything
gonna do
and
anything
everything
bad.
that you can.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, it's not gonna.
It's not going to hinder you
Yeah,
in any
yeah.
way, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu. The basics remain the same, whether you have a gi or not. The fundamental stuff.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the no-gi, the biggest thing that's helped me in the gi is the head control.
Yeah.
Pushing away the head when someone's in top half or trying to pass your guard, which is something that we wouldn't normally do in the gi. I mean, yes, technically, maybe I just realized at that point in time that that's what I needed to do, but I discovered it by doing no gi. I don't know how quickly I would have discovered it by just training the gi. Do you find yourself, Gab, doing no gi every now and then? Or?
I do definitely.
I think we already spoke about this, but yeah.
Yeah, we did. And also something I like about the gi is the grips. I love like a good grip on the lapel or grip on the pants, and I do a lot of like knee slide and passes from open guard, and it's so much easier in gi because you have those grips. But then when you do no gi, it kind of reminds you of the difficulties of actually passing somebody's guard. So you really have to adapt, and it keeps your mind fresh, I find, when you go from one to the other. And some people just do no gi, so you only get to see them when you do no gi, and some people roll completely differently from gi to no gi. Like their game, it's like it's a different person, so you get to see all aspects and like of everybody's game.
I think, and also lapels are definitely underrated in jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah.
When I was a blue belt, that's when I really started discovering things that you could do with the lapel. Mostly because there was a black belt who was visiting our school, and he got me in mount, and he took his own gi, put it over my face, like right underneath my eyes, and I could not breathe. And I tapped. And afterwards I said, are you can do that? Like, you're allowed to do that? And he was like, yeah, you can do anything you want. And that's when it really opened up the horizons of being able to use the lapels. So I started doing everything with lapels. And what I realized is that, yes, you have to get good at the fundamentals, and you have to do this stuff. You have to do your kimuras, you have to do your triangles, your arm bars. You have to know how to do that. It's a foundation of jiu-jitsu. But then afterwards, it's nice to open up your game and start learning things that no one else does, no one else sees, because those are the things that you can start kind of catching people on, or that will help you transition into those foundation moves that you do, right? Like similar to your murder choke. Obviously, that's the term we want to use.
Yeah, sorry.
To open up your murder choke, you're using fundamentals to lead you to that choke, right?
Absolutely. I have to get mount in order to get it. So I'm not just, jumping. Well, sometimes I'll just go for it right off the bat.
Yeah.
So I'll ignore good jiu-jitsu. But most of the time I have to get into a dominant position to get it. And to get into a dominant position, you need to utilize good jiu-jitsu. Underhooks, cross faces, that type of stuff.
So to end, what advice would you have to the everyday grappler? Obviously, we're a podcast that we're trying to spread the knowledge out there for every belt level, no matter what age you are. What advice do you have to the everyday grappler that's out there who's training 2-3 times a week, has a full-time job, kids at home, that's just trying to get out and be great at jiu-jitsu? Do you have any advice for this type of crowd, which is, by the way, 90% of people who do jiu-jitsu? Not everyone's going to be a world champion. Not everyone's gonna have a chance to compete 12 times a year. I mean, it's not cheap to compete either. So do you guys have any advice for the everyday Joe Blow?
I would say don't think about the journey and just enjoy the ride.
Ooh, so poetic. But yeah, it makes sense. I mean, the only way to get better at jiu-jitsu is to do more jiu-jitsu, right? And that's what I try to tell people. And just don't be intimidated by it. Just do it. Like, if you want to run, you're going to run. You're not going to do anything else to run, right? So do jiu-jitsu to be good at jiu-jitsu.
Good.
And I believe I won the game, by the way.
I think you did. I think you won the game.
Yes.
Well, guys, thanks very much for being on the show. I appreciate it. You guys are welcome back anytime.
Thanks for having us.
Don't forget, you guys can go on social media and go check out Will and Gab. That's Willam Paget. He's on Facebook. Same thing for Gab Cayouette. If you guys want to add them on Facebook, they're always posting things. Hopefully, we'll get Gab to put up some jiu-jitsu gear sooner than later. So if you guys are interested in that, you can definitely go check her out on social media. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
You've been listening to Let's Talk Jiu-Jitsu with Raymond Terrence. Go follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page. Turn on notifications and press that like button. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the mats.